Hi everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Connection. I'm your host, Donna Wilberg. Well, there's so many things going on in 2014. There's a big shift, and so bringing Veronica Lee on the show to talk about the Akashik Records just seemed like the right thing to do. So here we are in part 2 with Veronica Lee, who's going to help us get some of this information out there. So thanks for coming on. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Well, good. We always have a good time on the show. Let's start out with a little bit of background about, talk about you for those that missed the last episode.
Yes, so I'm an intuitive. I actually read the Akashik Records, and there are many people who do something similar. So I'm not trying to say that the Akashic Records readings are any more important than other kinds of readings. It just happens to be what I do. And I'm also a spiritual mentor, and I see myself as a spiritual teacher as well.
Fabulous. Well, we had a lot of good information in the last show, and I'm sure everybody's looking forward to more of the same. So let's start out with a little explanation about the Akashic Records. What are they? Where are they? How do you get to them?
Yes. It's really funny because that's one of the hardest questions for me to answer sometimes. If I were to read information about the Akashic Records, it would probably tell me that it's a library of all the information that ever was, ever will be. And that's probably true in some, realm. And what I have is my own experience of accessing and working in this energy field. And what I see it's an energy field in which all possibilities lie. So it could be that our past is there, and it could be that our future is there. And it often shows me in a sort of linear way what was, what is, and what will be. But more or less, I see it as a field of infinite possibility. So all things can exist in this field in terms of getting information, in terms of shifting things. It's a lot more dynamic than we might think it is.
So how do we access it? How do we access these records?
Yeah. So what I see is the Akashic Records, the energy field, and your own personal records, let's say, that's your birthright to have access to that. If we think of the Akashic Records as a field so-called similar to having a divine connection, it's really a matter of how do you set yourself up to be in a place where you can feel connected to it, right? So, for example, I use prayer, and I can also just decide I want to be in the records. I can meditate. So what I see is, because we're talking about a field of infinite possibilities, there are infinite ways to access this energy field.
Okay.
And there are records, prayers that you can find online, or perhaps in a book that might say, here's a prayer to access the records. You can use that, or you can make your own. You can do sacred dance, you can do alternate nostril breathing, you can do meditation, chanting. It's really about, and what I tell people, it's attention or intention. First, you're paying, you're setting an intention that I want to access the records. You're paying attention to what it is that you're getting, whatever that information is. And then the hardest one, which is to trust that this is your birthright to have this information, and to trust that you're getting the information and that it is coming to you.
So what kind of information are we talking about?
Any information, really. So if it's your Akashic Records, then the information will be quite personal, right? And of course, we can practice working with other people, accessing their records. I don't usually recommend people do that until they've really had an essence of the field for themselves and really worked in it in that way, just to be really clear and to be in integrity. But you can get information that isn't necessarily accessible to my brain anyway. So I've had people who wanted to learn about metaphysics and spirituality and science. Well, I'm pretty good at the spirituality and the metaphysics part. Science and I are not so good friends. And what's interesting is he would ask me these questions, and even though I didn't have the exact language, because I wasn't very good in science, I could still describe what it was he was looking for and give him that information. So I have seen information in our DNA. I've seen information about just about anything that people ask me about. I may not necessarily know your angel guide's name, and I really don't care. It's like, to me, it's all
come
the
on.
same. It's like, what I see is that, our angel guide is something that is a field also, right? It's more expansive, and if we want to name it, we can, but it doesn't have to be so limited. I see that we have so many guides. So for me to just discern when I'm really in this place of oneness, one energy name, and to give that to somebody is a little tricky.
Yeah.
And yet, the information can be whatever it is that you're looking for.
That's interesting, and I like the way you put that it's a language.
Yes.
Everything has a language.
Yes. Yes.
And learning that language is the key to opening the doors to a lot of things.
Yes.
But yet, we all know it.
Yes.
So it's just reacquainting ourselves with what's in there, what's stored.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by not being afraid, I think that sometimes fear, well, not sometimes, usually that's what stops us, right? It stops us from getting to know who we are. It stops us from acting on things. And in terms of this energy field, if we believe that you have to be this sort of guru or have done this or taken a class to access it, then it's going to be much harder to, reach it for yourself. But instead, if you really get that this is, your energy field that you can just simply shift into and have access to, then it can be that simple. And if that fear of, oh no, I don't know if I want to know whatever I, might get when I get in there, or, oh no, what if I'm tampering with something? A lot of people feel that, I've heard people say that, you shouldn't go into the records because you can mess things up. It's like, what's there to mess up? It's just a field. And if we want to have impact in positive ways, we can do that. I don't really see it used negatively, except perhaps if someone is reading the records of somebody else and now they're trying to act as if I have this information and I'm telling you what to do with it, and that can be manipulative. But other than that, I don't see any harm in accessing this energy field, which is pure love consciousness, really.
Yeah. So is it kind of like, when we talk about the different ways to do it, is it kind of like walking in a library, checking out a book, or going online and ordering it from Amazon? The results are the same, but they're just two different ways of going about doing it. Is it the same with the
Absolutely.
Akashic Records?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And sometimes you can actually, decide you want to write a book, right? And so you can go in and go on your computer and say, I want to contribute to Amazon or to the library. So it's a very open field in that way. So yes, there's information, but what's really amazing is that we are that information. The Akashic Records is us. And so whatever we do is making that imprint, but at the same time that imprint is forming us. So it's really an inseparable energy.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. So what is the most misconception about the Akashic? Well, you actually kind of said that, didn't you, about the...
What I have found is that sometimes people will come to me because maybe they've read something from Edgar Cayce, and he said something about, you go to this energy, or, I think he described it as a dark field, or, he had to pass these dark energies to get to it. And it was valuable to get information about the past lives, for example. Well, I don't really see a lot of value in past lives, even though I was raised to believe that we all have them. The only time that I bring them up is if it's relevant to what's going on with someone. But to go looking into the past to find out if you were Cleopatra or not is sort of like, okay, so what? But some people have that misconception that that's all that's there. The other way that they'll think that the Akashic Records are formed is as if it's a line and a fateful journey that we can't change. So one time a woman asked me if her husband was going to get a particular job. And I saw him getting, more stress, and I saw this noose around his neck, and I said, well, he could get the job, but he's going to be working even more than he's working. He's going to be more stressed out, and he really doesn't want it. And she thought about what I said, and she goes, right, but is he going to get it? I'm like, I don't know. Is he going to say yes for the stress, or is he going to say, gee, this isn't working for me?
Yeah.
So her idea was that it was a yes or a no, and there was only one particular path. And what I see is it's a potential, and so it can show you the path that you've been traveling and the possibilities based on the choices you've made. But a yay or nay and a very specific future is not there either.
Yeah, we kind of touched on this in the last episode, that there is no right, there is no wrong. It's all perfect.
It's the is, yes.
Yeah, it's the is. And so accessing that information can be helpful if you're in a query about, you know, solving a problem or what to do, or just getting validation.
Absolutely.
But it is what it is.
It is. And one of the things that some people will do when they first learn to access the records is to simply experience it, right? To simply, it's, if you imagine, you know, going out in the sun and you've never been in the sun before, to just allow that to sort of, you know, wash over you. It's a very juicy, yummy, it feels really good for many people. And at the same time, it can be a little bit frightening because it's an alternate space, an alternate reality to some degree, and it can feel a little different. So what I find is when I'm working with people, they will often feel dizzy or a little bit lightheaded, you know, because we've kind of, you know, I'm not just accessing your records, for example. I'm accessing the records on your behalf, but I don't see any reason why you're not there with me. And so for that person, they might find that they start to feel a little bit woozy or different. So that can be, you know, a little bit scary. At the same time, the information is available there if we choose to ask questions. And that's the best way that I see working with people is by having them ask questions. What do you want to know? What's tricky when you first go into the records is, oh, should I get a divorce or should I not get a divorce, right? That's a biggie. That's not necessarily going to come as a yes or a no. And if it does, we may not want to hear it. So instead, what I invite people to do when they're first experiencing this energy field is to ask more open questions, such as, what do I need to know? Right? Or what do I need to know about? And pick something that's not so charged. The other would be to simply ask a lighter question. So it might be, you know, what is going on with my, you know, right hip or something, you know, very simple that's bothering you, but you'd like clarity, but you don't necessarily have a lot of attachment to it. So a lot of information can be there that's on our behalf to know, our best behalf to know,
Now, how much information do we really need? You know, to go through. Now, you know, charts, when you have your chart done, you know, if you get a really good chart, it tells you an awful lot about where you've been, you know, what your whole path is.
Right.
You know, that's very valuable information and very validating as well. To dig deeper, you know, it's I don't know, that's a lot of information.
It is a lot of information because sometimes what I think happens is we can get really caught up, and this is one of the things that the way that I do readings is I like people to ask me questions. I've had, you know, growing up in a psychic environment, I've had many readings. I've been going to psychic fairs since I was really little, and many psychics will often just start reading information for me. You know, they'll start saying, oh, I'm seeing this and I'm seeing that, and you're going to live here, and it's like, oh, okay, that's not really what I want to hear, only because I really came for a specific reason, right? So when people come to me, it's like, ask what you want. It could be anything, whether it's about you or has anything to do with you. It could be open-ended, it can be specific, and that way they're empowered to, you know, bring the information or the question, and I can just provide the information. But when I do mentoring with people, which is an ongoing relationship, and I'm really trying to hold space for them as they step into who they really are and really open up to their gifts, I don't let them ask questions because I don't want the relationship to be dependent on me having information. And instead it's, you know, here's what's going on with you energetically, here's what you're feeling, here's why you're feeling blocked this week, and here's why you're so exhausted, because you're getting this huge wave of information and you're really stepping into who you are, and they get, oh yeah, that makes sense. But what I really don't want is someone else to give me that power. And so sometimes, and not very often, when we move into this energy field, whether it's through a consultant or in our own, you know, life, we don't usually look for answers when we feel good. It's usually when there's something that's come up, right? And we are a little bit stressed about it. So in essence, if we take it in as, let's say, a meditation, where you quiet the mind and you just simply open up and say, what do I need to know? It can be really valuable to just have that pure love and that information, things that are in that are forming within you, let's say, to happen. It can also be nice to get specific information so that we can have clarity. If we're desperate and needy, it can be a little bit tricky, and the information may be harder to hear, and we may not be ready to hear it, like you were saying.
Yeah. So is this the only place that information is stored, or?
I don't think so. No,
Okay.
I think that we are so big, and our universe and all the universes are just so, we are just a fleck, right? And it's a wonderful energy field for us to tap into for this, let's say, stage of development for our human evolution.
Okay.
It's a nice, really expanded state of consciousness for humans to access. I see that there are lots of other realms that are far more bizarre, let's say, or interesting, which would have no relevance necessarily to us unless we were a very high spiritual teacher or a shaman that needed to access certain things. But for the average everyday human who is ready to really expand and feel love, consciousness, and information, it's pretty powerful.
Wow. Well, there you have it. That's crazy information. Well, let's talk a little bit more of how, now, do you use that specifically when you do your readings, or is it something, you just use as a resource?
So one of the things is that when I first started working in this field, I did start to use it as a format, and it felt really easy because it was, I'll say a prayer that feels right. In fact, when I first learned, it was a very specific prayer, and I didn't particularly resonate with the prayer, but it worked. And so I used that for a while, and then as I felt more confident with the information I was getting, I really felt more aligned with just channeling whatever felt right to be said in the moment. So now I still access the records through just an open prayer of, intending to access someone's records. At the same time, the more I started working in this energy field, the more it really sort of infused with me that the information just became available and it's in everything. And so I didn't need to necessarily access a field to get the information. It really just sort of merged with me. So now, people, if they just ask a question, it's like brrr, the information starts to come, and it can be a little bit tricky to not answer. It's like, okay, they're just asking a question, and so it's I have to decide, okay, this is just the human that needs to answer this. It doesn't need to be this higher information. So in terms of just a standard, yes, if somebody's come to me for Akashic record reading, absolutely. But in mentoring, I'm giving them the same information. I just don't access their records, and I don't really set it up in a question answer mode. But it's all really the same.
So we have individual records. Do we have other records that pertain to the world as a whole?
Absolutely. If you think about if you want to associate or think of the records as sort of a relationship, we have a relationship with ourselves, right?
Right.
So there's so much there. I mean, we can hate ourselves at the same time that we're proud of ourselves. We're really complex, right? And we have relationships with lots of people. So you can actually do a relationship reading, and somebody can go into the records of the relationship, right? There are so many aspects to who we are that we can look at. Let's say if somebody wanted to look at the records of the United States or California, we could do that. When I first started working with my mom, I had mentioned this, that she and I teach together intuitive skills classes, and we do things very different. And I thought, oh, well, I really don't have any information. I just access the records. That's all I really do. So before the class, so I could feel confident teaching the class, I would access the records of the class and say, okay, what do I need to know? And I'd go in, and then all this information would come, and I felt like, okay, I could do this. And then after a while, I didn't need to. So you can really access the records of any energy field, any intention. It helps to make you feel confident, but then after a while, it becomes sort of funny.
Yeah. Wow. I'm going to have to try that.
Yes.
Yeah. the experience I had was, it was just a little experience, you know, but I remember, you know, the visual of climbing the stairway and getting to this big, beautiful building with the golden doors and, you know, almost like a, you know, when you walk into an old-fashioned post office, how they used to have the little boxes, you know, with your number on it, you know, and there's my name, you know, and then opening the door and there's my files, you know. That's as far as I got. You know, I really wasn't able to see, you know, much of the information that was in there.
Taught people how to access the records because of having one way, like maybe you're not a visual person, or maybe that day you had something going on. So what I teach are different methods. So maybe we try this, and then after, you know, 20 minutes of trying this exercise, we try another exercise, and then we give feedback, so that you really have a sense of what works for me. And the other thing that I let people know is what works for me today, because sometimes, you know, we have a different energy about us. And again, it's that fear and also unworthiness that will get in the way, but there are ways to, you know, breathe through that and move through that, and to really, you know, look at this empty box. What if you went there, Donna, and pulled it out and just like, oh my gosh, there's nothing here.
Or it was written in Greek.
Oh no, exactly. And so what if you just said, you know, oh, here's, and you start describing what it is there, then what happens is that starts to say, yes, you're seeing, you're visualizing, you're there, and it allows you to get, you know, really with that moment, and then from there you can put the box back, walk away, and be done with it for a while, and then try again or try something else. So there's a lot of ways to approach it that can kind of dissolve that fear and that concern.
Super. Well, I'm going to try it again. Well, we need to get to your information. How can people get a hold of you?
Oh, well, that's easy. So I am Veronica Lee, intuitive mentor, spiritual teacher. And people can reach me through my website, sacred-offerings.com, or follow me on Twitter at Sacred Offerings. And of course, they can like my Facebook page, which is Sacred Offerings.
I love Facebook. It's just, you know, such a neat way to connect with people, and it says a lot about how we're evolving, doesn't it?
It does. And what's interesting is some people will say, oh, I just get sick of all the negativity on Facebook. I'm thinking, I don't have that, because I've hand selected the people that I want to have on my Facebook. And really it's amazing, the network of people who are really sharing a lot of the same information. I will say, you know, I don't really have a connection to the real world in many ways. I don't have a television. I don't really know what's out there. And I also don't read books. I hate to admit this, but I don't read spiritual information. And part of which is because I really don't want to be swayed. I really want to stay clear that this information is just information. But what's really fascinating is I'll read something that somebody's posted, and it'll be exactly what I've been seeing. And so it helps me validate, but it also excites me, because all over the world this is happening, this energy of us all awakening together.
I love it. Absolutely. Well, let's give a little bit of information about the Paranormal Connection.
The Paranormal Connection airs the first and third Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Our companion show, Story Connection, airs the second and fourth Thursdays of each month. Each episode repeats the following Friday at 1:30 p.m. and Saturday at 5:30 a.m. Watch these programs online at the same airtimes by going to accesssacramento.org and clicking Watch 17. In the Sacramento region, you can see us on Comcast Channel 17 and on AT&T Channel 99. You can find previously aired shows on the Paranormal Connection YouTube channel. For information on upcoming shows and previous Paranormal Connection guests, go to paranormalconnectiontv.blogspot.com. You can contact us at paranormalconnectiontv@gmail.com. And don't forget, find us on Facebook. Become a friend and become a fan.
So in the few minutes we have left, you want to talk about, you have workshops online, you've got things going on that people can jump in and start experiencing and learning some things?
Yes, so I do offer courses online occasionally. Actually, I'm just completing an ebook that is based on a 30-day approach to really aligning with your powerful, you know, your power, who you really are. And that's almost done. So by the time this airs, I'm hoping it'll actually be available on Kindle.
Is there a title?
There is a title. It's Reclaim Your Powerful You, a 30-day approach to aligning with who you really are and your power. So, yes.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yes.
This could be a big hit.
I think so.
A lot of people are asking questions, which I think is wonderful. You know,
Yes.
people are starting to listen. They're starting to ask questions, and you know, I love it. And like you said, the postings on Facebook are very, very validating.
Yes, absolutely.
So, well, anything you want to add before we wrap it up here?
Well, I believe that the Akashic Records are not just a field of information. I do want to say that for me, it opened my heart immensely to this pure love consciousness, that it really, I could feel this sense of unconditional love that I'd never felt. So even if people who try to access their records through prayer, through intention, whatever, don't get information, just by allowing that energy to absorb and be around them and infuse them with love is huge.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's been very informative, and we've enjoyed having you. You're so cute, and you're so much fun. And I hope everybody will, you know, get out there and connect with you.
Yes.
Because it'd be good. So with that, I'd like to say thank you to my fabulous and wonderful crew, Greg and Lisa, Laura and Ted, and our newcomer, Stacy. We appreciate having you tonight, and everybody volunteers their time to put the show on. So it's a gift of love, and we appreciate it, and we hope you felt it out there. So thank you so much, Veronica Lee, and thank you everybody for watching and tuning in. And with that, we're going to say goodnight.